day 36 of my extended 20-day water fast. Let's jump into the numbers, shall we? pH was 6 again, staying steady as always, at least for the last week or so. My weight went up slightly from 167.3, went back up to 168.2. Consumed about 2.5 liters of water, I'd say. Went a little bit lighter in water for the day. Went to the bathroom again, staying consistently around 6 times. Water pH was 9.3, TDS 88, EC 177. I woke up at like 6:50 a.m. Again, this was like before the alarm clock. I think I'd set the alarm clock for like 7:30-ish, something like that. And yeah, my body just woke up. So I'm definitely noticing that that's happened at different times, where I woke up prior to the alarm going off. Sometimes I'm not sure if it was just because my body's like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom, and then it just wakes me up. Or it's more just or I'm thirsty, really thirsty. Sometimes there's been some mornings I woke up. There's been other mornings too where I woke up and I'm just like, my mouth is so dry and I'm feeling so thirsty and parched that I'm just like, gotta grab the water, start drinking, but then I'm like weary about drinking too much right away because I'm like, oh, it's gonna throw off the scale number, but I usually just take a few sips of water just to wetten my palate, and so I'm not feeling super parched, feeling as I go to the, before getting up to use the restroom, and then checking my pH and checking my weight. So stayed up, and then ended up going to bed at like 2:30 in the morning. So yeah, so that was a long day, 6:50 a.m. to 2:30 a.m. Jam-packed day. Yeah, definitely. It was definitely a great day. Like I did meditation. I had signed up for a cooking cutlery, like a cooking knife skills class, and it was freaking awesome. Like, I didn't know what to expect, and I normally go to my martial arts class on Saturdays, so this class was, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to skip martial arts this time, but I'm like, well, I'm not actively participating anyways, so and this is something that I know is really important for me. I really want to up my skills with how to prep food, how to make, how to handle the tools in the kitchen, and I realized I've never took any formal training on how it's done properly. I just kind of winged it, and I think a lot of people have just been winging doing meal prep, and they have no idea if they're actually doing it correct or wrong, or very inefficiently, but in any case, it's that class, it was later in the day, so I ended up taking, I was driving, had a few stops to make, so I had kind of a lazy morning, because that class wasn't starting until 1 p.m. And so I did stop by the dojo at, around noontime to drop off a little package for my sifu, and a little kind of like a little present thing, and then I was donating a little bit of cash towards one of our teammates. His dad had just passed away, and so we were all contributing a little bit of cash to just kind of help him out and ease him through this time. So I did all that and but yeah, I did all my meditation, did, yeah, prepping stuff, getting myself, catching up some videos. I was needed to finish going back and do some editing before uploading them and stuff like that. So I did all that kind of stuff. And then so finally made it over there early, early enough. I rode my motorcycle again. That's the other thing, I'm just finally started riding my motorcycle again. I'm not sure if I mentioned that yet. Yeah, I think I experimented with it the day before. I think it was the day before I experimented with it briefly, my motorcycle. And, but yeah, so now it's like, okay, I felt good enough. My energy that day was, energy felt pretty, felt okay. Like I was definitely, had a little light level of fatigue sensation and like, and like an undertone of tiredness kind of feeling. But it was more of a tiredness, like feeling depleted tiredness, and not necessarily like didn't get enough sleep tiredness, so it's definitely like a physiological tiredness of that. I'm like a feeling that, okay, I'm like definitely feeling like I'm starting to go into the tail end of my nutrient reserves. And actually one thing I didn't mention was the night before, I woke up at 6:50, but I went to bed really early. At least really early for me. The night before, I actually went to bed at like 10:30. Like I had the lights out at 10:30. Because the day before, near the end of the day, day 35, I was like freaking exhausted. Like I was barely, almost like barely made it through the day kind of thing. And so that just, I was like, what, I'm calling it early. I don't care. Like, I don't want to distract myself, get caught up with like getting into long drawn conversations with my housemate, or, listening to some other hour-long YouTube video or whatnot. I was just like, screw that, I'm going to sleep. So I'm so glad I did, because I realized the next day, I was like, man, I need to be as rested as possible, because I'm going to be doing this cutlery class where I'm like, playing with knives and shit, so I need to be as clear-headed as possible and not tired when dealing with knives. So so I went to bed really early. I think that was part of why then, my body was just like, okay, 6:50 a.m., we're away, we're rested, let's get up. So, okay, but anyways, fast forward to that, the cutlery class. Originally it was scheduled for like 3 hours, but just, we ended up getting so involved that it just ended up running long. And what was cool is actually, like, there's supposed to be 4 of us in the class, a very small, very hands-on class that this guy was teaching. And it was his very first class that he's just starting this new, when he starts this new coaching business, teaching people how to use tools in the kitchen properly, and having this personal in-person training. And this was his very first class. And so he originally had 4 people registered, and then at the last minute, 2 of them dropped out for scheduling conflicts. Like one was like, oh, I have some other thing I forgot. I'm hosting this other event the same day. I totally forgot, or something. It's like, how do you forget that? I don't know. And some other one, it was some other company thing that they suddenly had to cancel last minute because something the company needed him. So it ended up going from 4 down to 2, which is me and this other guy. And actually, in retrospect now, it was perfect that it turned out that way, because then we really got very personal attention, which I appreciated a lot. And I learned a ton. Like, I didn't know how much I didn't know before taking this. Like, yeah, I was like, oh yeah, maybe I'll polish up on some skills. You know, I come to find that I was basically doing everything wrong. You're right down to how I was holding the knife, like how I properly, how, you know, the techniques for how you properly chop different vegetables, and how you peel things, and how you prep things, and how you know, manage the tools, and which tools to use, and understanding like what makes a good knife, and all that stuff. Like, I realized, I learned from this. I was like, damn, I knew literally, I thought I knew some stuff, and I'm like, man, I was completely ignorant, you know? So it was just like, it was this wealth of information. And so, you know, I'm just like, damn, you know? And so, but at the same time, I was like so happy and grateful that I took this class. And yeah, so this 3-hour class turned into like a 5-hour class, you know, because then he was like, kept teaching different things, and, you know, and he's like, hey, do you have a little more time? You know, maybe we can still go into this next thing. And here, we're going to make some French fries, you know, fresh, you know. And so we're just like starting from scratch, just like potatoes, raw potatoes. And then we're just like using this special peeler and showing us the proper techniques of how to peel properly, you know, and removing the eyes and doing all the trimming and how to properly chop them, you know. So it's like we're doing it all with knives, not any kitchen gimmicky gadgets, you know, where you're like, oh, you do this and you push it through this thing and it turns it into French fries. It's like, he says the problem with that is, you know, unless you're doing a lot of them, you know, and you're only, you know, if you're only cooking for 1 or 2 people, usually those gimmicky gadgets take longer to clean than the time it saves you, you know. So you're usually better off just using a really good knife and really good technique and getting the job done, you know, fast and efficient and minimal cleanup. So that's definitely took that advice to heart. And so, yeah, so it was awesome. Like within a few minutes, we just like had these potatoes like perfectly chopped and turned into French fries, and had it all in there and baking it. And then we made fresh guacamole, and learned how to properly dice and actually dice the vegetables, you know. And it's like, I knew like dicing means like chopping it up or something, but I didn't fully get that it's like, wow, you're actually turning the vegetables into little cubes that are like dice, like Las Vegas, you know, like rolling a set of dice. It's like, and then when I realized, I was like, oh my God. I'm like, oh my God, it's so freaking obvious. It was like that. I like using that term, elusive obvious. You know, it was one of those elusive obvious. It was right under my nose this entire time. And then I discovered, I was like, oh, that's why they call it dicing, you know, diced vegetables, because they're turned into little dice. And then you determine how big the dice is. Like, do you want them super tiny, little 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch? Or do you want the little, you know, 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. And how to properly do that. And it's like, I've seen it done on Food Network and things like that, but I've never actually attempted it. I realize now, like, I've seen it, but I was still just chopping things any old which way. And then also he showed us the proper technique of how to dice, how to chop and dice up an onion without causing yourself to cry at all. You know, that there's a very specific technique of how you do it to minimize the release of what causes you to cry. And like, we did it. And he was just like, did you even feel like crying at all? And I was like, no, actually. And it was kind of like, wow, there's actually there's a proper way of doing this. I had no freaking idea, you know? And so it was also like this, like, I got really excited and liberated about it. And suddenly it really boosted my confidence a lot about like, wow, man, I'm actually like, it's really cool to actually know what the hell I'm doing in the kitchen now, you know? I mean, at least I'm, you know, this is only a part of it. But before, I'm just used to like, you know, I just throw stuff in a pan, you know, beat some eggs. You know, I can crack an egg and beat it and stuff. But all these little nuances, I was just kind of like, I'm just kind of winging it, never sure if I'm quite doing it right, as long as it kind of turns out somewhat edible. And, but now I'm just like, wow, it's like really inspired me to want to just keep going and keep learning and keep expanding my skill sets about how to handle food, how to prepare food, and I could see that it is really possible to really build up this speed and efficiency of like how you're handling the ingredients, how, where everything is positioned in front of you, the tools you're using the proper tools for the proper job, And so, yeah, and then we started teaching us about different salts and like how to use the different salts and the differences between the regular crystallized salts and then the flake salts and then like smoked salts and the difference between the regular sea salt and iodized salt and in which situations you use which, all this stuff. And I was like, damn, like all these little nuances I didn't realize. So yeah, it was really awesome. And then he showed us how to properly hone your chef's knife, and he included all the instruments to take home with us, that was also, it's part of the price. He picked out, here's a good, really solid chef's knife that is very common in a lot of professional commercial kitchens. That's not too expensive, but it works very well. It stands up to a lot of use. And as long as you hone it every time, had that honing rod and told us the principles of the honing rod. And it always have a honing rod to match the knife. And the honing rod should be at least 2 inches longer than the length of the blade of the knife, so that's another reference now I got in my head, and so that's how it's matched, so I think it's like a 10-inch blade chef's knife with a 12-inch honing rod, and showed us the proper way to know how the angle and the speed and the direction and all that stuff, and how the knife is supposed to be in your hand and how your fingers and positioning it and, how you're doing all the proper techniques. And so we were practicing all this stuff, got a lot of practice time in, and yeah, it was just freaking awesome. I was like so excited, because now I'm just like, wow, I could actually I'm gonna do some really cool stuff now. Like in the kitchen, I'm not gonna be so intimidated to try to do something a little more fancy. It's like now, like, wow, I could actually do some little fancier stuff now and feel confident that I can pull it off and it'll turn out really good. And I'm just like, wow, I know most of my friends that I know, they don't know this stuff. So now I'm like realizing, man, I think I'm gonna turn into like this kind of, hobby chef type of thing, and like I'm gonna start making some kick-ass meals, and then want to share that, and invite people over and be like, hey, I'm cooking dinner, I mean, then hell, like how romantic is that? It's like, have some date or something, be like, hey, I'm cooking dinner tonight, and then I like make this super nice, fancy gourmet type meal, and it's like, I made it from scratch, it's like, it's very impressive, it's like, man, I was impressing myself. So, yeah, and then I talked to him about my idea about the product, the food product that I want to do, and he was totally down for it. And he knew all about the plant paradox, which was like I was like, about the plant paradox thing? He's like, I've already read all the books, not just that one, the other ones too. Everything from Dr. Gundry. I know everything from Dr. Gundry. So he's all familiar with the lectins and everything. And so I was like, dude, I want to make this product and make it follow the plant paradox diet. I'm like, do you want to work on it with me? And he said, sure, that would be awesome. And then so I was like, so yeah, and at the same, so it's interesting. It was like very serendipitous. It was a very serendipitous day. You have, occasionally have those very serendipity infused days where I was looking for something and suddenly like answers to needs that I didn't even realize I had at the time got answered, because I was like, well, I'm gonna have to kind of figure this out and do a lot of experimentation. But now like having somebody else that's like way more knowledgeable about more of the nuances of how to make a certain food taste a certain way, and the texture, and and where to look for the special ingredients and other things that I would have never thought of to put in there. So now I'm just like, man, this might, maybe this guy will turn into like partner. I think we'll turn into some kind of like partnership type of thing, working on this together. As soon as we have something, then I'll definitely report it on this channel. But for now, I'm just leaving it under wraps and not mentioning what it is. But it's a food item flavor. Yeah, it's a food item. I'll just leave it at that. Food item product that would follow the plant paradox, and it's filling a hole that's missing, I see. And it would be something that would fill a desire and a need that I have, and that's, first and foremost is why I'm doing it. It's because I want it, something that I want that I can't find. I looked around, there's nothing that fits it. So I'm like, well, then I have to make it myself, and if that turns into some, little side business, then that'd be awesome. So so it was an awesome, beautiful day, and I left there feeling so much more confident and assured that I'm on the right track. And it was all part, and this is all like feeling like it's all adding momentum to me moving towards that vision I had shared in an earlier video, about creating this whole food manufacturing big business with like all of these different parts to it that are all vertical integration of all these different companies. These are interrelated, that all support each other in order to cause this new vision for transforming the health of the country, and making the world the way I would like it to be, like the world that I would like to live in, in the future, where there's just so much more easily accessible, healthy options that I don't have to constantly be second guessing and trying to edit and set all these exceptions and doing this and doing that, and just like making it so difficult. And now it's like remove the level of difficulty and just suddenly make it easy to eat right. Just say, hey, if I go here, I'm going to eat right. If I order these products here, I'm going to eat right. If I shop here, I'm going to eat right. If I order from this supplier, everything they have to offer, none of it is going to be toxic at all. None of it is going to impact my health. You can't say that at all these days. So I think this guy I met, I think he's definitely, actually I got to reach out to him again. I haven't followed up with it. I got to follow up with him because I'm all so excited, but he's not hearing this from me. So, but I got to make a team, my new all-star team for people as I'm moving on to going to create this thing that I want to do. So I walked out of there feeling like, yep, this is my first guy on my team. Like I just feel the synergy with this guy that I don't recall feeling before. And it just fits, we just fit really well. We're on the same wavelength. And it's freaking awesome. Like he's like completing my sentences. I'm describing something that we could do, and he finishes my sentence. He knows, he's like 2 steps ahead of me, and I love that part, because he just knows so much more about all the food and cuisine and how to prepare things and where to go and who to talk to and all that stuff. And so it's just like, I was like, yes, this is what I need. That vision, I could see that vision. I'm like, man, just moved 1 step closer, maybe a couple of steps closer after that serendipitous meeting and really awesome learning experience. So then the rest of the day was just just kind of reveling in it, I would say, after that day. And I was just so excited and so happy, and I shared a little bit with my mom and stuff, but I realized, okay, I can't share too much because then she doesn't really totally understand, and there isn't really many people that understand. So it's like, okay, I got to kind of keep this mostly under wraps to myself and not be sharing it, with family members, because family members are just like, oh God, here you go again, or something like that. And just like, they don't understand that this is, it's something completely different now. It's like I can feel that it's like this, for the first time, it could be a genuine labor of love. And I got, one of the things I really got, one of my another big epiphany I had was, I think as I was coming up to my mom, as I was getting to my mom's doorstep, I was like, something shifted after going to that workshop, thinking about relationship with food, and it dawned on me, which had dawned on me intellectually before, but now it was like at a deep emotional level. There was like this, I finally got this aha moment. I'm like, oh, like for my mom, food is love. I think I'd said that before intellectually, but it was like empty, void of emotion. But this time it was different. It was like all of these intense emotions, like childhood emotions, like the feelings of past acts of my mom, like really slaving away to just like make the best meal possible, and just getting so much joy out of seeing me enjoy this meal each time it hit me. I was like, oh my God, like that was her just trying to, she just was like loving me with all her heart through her food. And I was like resisting it, and there was a part of me that was like, she's trying to make me fat or something like that. And so I was kind of resisting it and not seeing it as like, this is her way of expressing her love. And I resisted it for the most part, most of my life. I wasn't receiving it as the love that she was trying to give to me, and then it just suddenly, like all of that history, as I was walking up the steps and I'm standing there, all of a sudden, the history of all that emotions, that unfelt emotions of that love, suddenly just came welling up like a deep spring, and it just just came bursting all out. And I just I had to stand there at the doorway, it was late at night, just stand, not too late at night, maybe like 8 or 9 o'clock or something. And I just stood there, just like feeling all these emotions and just like tears. But it was like these tears of joy and tears of like deep felt love that I didn't allow myself to feel before, that I had rejected before. And like it was there, but I didn't allow myself to feel them. And then suddenly I experienced feeling that love, that deep unconditional love. And it was just like, a deep unconditional love that only a mother can have, for their children. And it just it shook me, like I was shaken by it, but but in this very beautiful kind of way, and I had to kind of catch myself, because I just was overwhelmed by all the tears of joy and happiness, and that it's like I had this intense feeling of just like that love just coursing through me. And I was like, oh my God, like I didn't realize, you know, I didn't realize that I'd been rejecting this, not allowing myself to feel this. And it, you know, and it just felt so good to just feel that love. And then for me to finally get like, wow, you know, she just was trying to love me this whole time and I wasn't letting it happen. And I was twisting things. And then like I started getting like flashbacks of all the times, all the hours, the countless hours over all the years of me. Like one of the central tenets, the relationship between me and my mom has been around food, you know, has been around either her making some amazing, delicious meal, you know, and giving me food, you know, preparing this food, or her and I like hanging out together watching a cooking show. And I was like, man, I spent so much of my life watching cooking shows with my mom. And I was always so interested in it. And yet I kept rejecting it. Like there were some things that kind of created this toxic relationship with food, dysfunctional relationship I had with food. So I was simultaneously so drawn to it and so drawn to the art of creating food. But I was simultaneously like, because I was struggling with my weight. So I was like, it's also simultaneously the cause of my suffering and feeling so self-conscious of my body. And so therefore I never fully like embraced it. It was this in-between place where I'm simultaneously like drawn to it and pushing away from it. And so I was like just living in this conflicted state for so freaking long. And so I feel like that dissolved. That conflict just dissolved for me between taking that class, and then suddenly just the emotions welling up. And I was like, wow, this is actually a love. There's love here. There's like a history of love here. And I learned to love, you know, there's so much to love here, and there's so much that this represents love and warmth and caring, you know, to another human being, like taking the time out to create something delicious and nutritious and soothing and comforting, you know, and nourishing to another human being is just like, it's, you know, next to giving them shelter is like the next most important thing to provide to another human being to show your love towards them. And it all hit me, you know, all in that doorway, just standing there before I went to ring the doorbell. So yeah, it just hit me. It all came together. It's like all these pieces, my history, how personal it is. And I was just like, wow, like, it's like that vision that I received. It was inspiring, but it's like, after that day, it's like the heart, you know, the heart and the love, you know, to provide fuel to make that vision happen showed up for me that night, you know. And it was just like, that was the moment that like it really solidified for me that this is what I'm meant to do. Like fulfilling on this vision, it's personal, you know. It's deeply meaningful to me, like, because it's just related to my whole life. You know, it's like I'm doing it for myself. You know, first and foremost, I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it because this is what I want. This is what, like, it's like, a labor of love. Like I see that I'll never get tired of this. In the same way I never get tired of watching cooking shows. You flip a cooking show on, I'll watch it. I don't care. It could be a rerun even. I don't care. I want to watch it. I'm so drawn to it. And so I'm just like, oh my God. It's like, why didn't I see this before? But it's okay. I see it now. That's what matters. And it was so like, felt so good. I was just like, I don't need to do any. I don't need to like be trying to run after the thing that will make the most money or whatever. And it's like, man, doing what you love, and that it will make a big difference for a lot of people and create a lot of value for for so many people. You don't have to worry about how much money you make, because you'll make way more money than you ever imagined. But it's like when you don't care about the money, that's when you make a lot of money. It's the ironies of life. When all you care about is making a lot of money, that's usually when you don't make much money. It's this inverse relationship. And that's what my relationship with money had been up until that point, just focusing on what pays the most. And inevitably it always ends up me like kind of like resistant, kind of not totally giving it my all, and kind of like drudgery, and now I'm just like, man, I'm gonna want to like work on this like 7 days a week, I'll put 12 14 hours a day on this, like, and I'll love it, and I won't get tired of it, like, because there's so many pieces to it, it's just like this living, organically, constantly changing, so many ways to innovate in this space of the food business, the food manufacturing business, and like I said, I'm not thinking about doing something like small, like, oh, I'm gonna do a food truck now. It's like, no, like change things, disrupt, and like disruptive, create, be a disruptor in this field. And that's my vision of where I want to go, but it starts with a stepping stone. And so I know what my stepping stone is. And I'm just like, man, it's like, yeah, it's like when you love it, you don't even track the time anymore. Like, I'm not even like, oh, okay, I gotta start at this time, and I gotta put at least this many hours in. I see now, I'm just gonna be like, how soon can I start, and how late can I work? That's my relationship to it now. And I'm just like, that's freaking awesome. And I'm so grateful. Like, I'm just full of so much gratitude. I'm just like full of so much gratitude right now, and so happy about it, and so excited to just get started, get moving, wrap up the things I need to do, and just like way more committed to just like, okay, I got to cut out the distractions, cut out anything that's not related to moving me forward on my goals. And yeah, and that's so I'm like feeling so blessed right now. And I know this is a long video, but it's been a really special, serendipitous, poignant, like total like crossroads change, trajectory in my life. And it's like now I got the vision, I got the intellectual side, and now I also have the heart, the love of wanting to make that happen. And I've never had that before, and it's really special. And I'm feeling like I finally found what I've been looking for. And it's funny, it's just like it was right under my nose the entire time. But I guess that's kind of that old parable of like, the diamonds on your own farm kind of thing. He went, searched long and wide for years, looking elsewhere to find the diamonds, only to finally come home and then discover, after just a little bit of digging, that there was an entire field of diamonds where he lived, and it was there the entire time. You know, it's that kind of a feeling, you know, ironic, but valuable lesson nonetheless. So yeah, so that's something I'd share, you know, with everyone who's watching this, to really look at, like, you know, what's been something personal in your life, you know, what's something that it's been a recurring theme of something that you've been, like, really drawn to, you know, especially something you've been drawn to all your life that maybe you've been just kind of like brushing aside. There's always just some little side thing, but it may be the very thing that's the key to, you know, doing something amazing, you know. Maybe just been discounting it, you know, or just never considered it because it just didn't seem like it's not, well, that's not me or whatever. But I'm like, I never imagined this, you know, until I did, and turns out this is my path. And yeah, so yep, that's where I'm at. So it's on to bigger, amazing things, you know. So all right, well, that is it for this video, and on to day 37.